Hola, muchacho.
Hey, hey, hey.
Hey, what's up, dude?
What's happening?
Not too much, man. Just drinking my morning coffee, had my poop de jour. I'm good to
Same,
go.
same. But
Coffee sips in unison.
yeah. So we're here at just this is just a phase, central.
Hmm.
Yep.
Via Zoom.
Yep, via Zoom. I'm Sam Sinister.
I'm Jonathan Kent, and this is just a phase.
Yes.
You've got no motivation and you've got no self-esteem. There's a hole inside your head with no future to be seen. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
So we're gonna try something new here. We're probably quite a few years behind the trend, but reaction videos are all the rage, I'm told. So we're going to try doing some of those in addition to our interviews, and we're gonna figure this out right now.
Yeah, like I'm super pumped about this, and I think the song I picked for you is not necessarily a punk song, but it's something in my wheelhouse and something that the band is a band that I've really been getting into recently. And it was a tough thing to do because like there's so much new music I've gotten into, and it was like, well, I'll start with this one, and then I can the other ones I can get to eventually. Like some of the songs have been featured on reaction videos already, so I'm like, maybe I don't want to do that one. Maybe I'll do this one instead. You know what I mean? Kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
I wanted to feature a band that I haven't seen any reaction videos with.
hmm So I'm
So
gonna be honest. I just went into my most recently liked songs, and we're not gonna name the service. I'll just call it Copter Fly.
yeah,
I went into my Copter Fly library and picked one of the most recent ones.
okay. Now, how are we gonna do this? Are we gonna like give information first, or do we start playing the song? Like, how are we gonna do this?
No, I'll play the song. I gotta figure that shit out right now.
We're so professional.
I know, right? This is all a me thing. I'm sorry.
Sam's the worst.
Okay. Can you see this hovering window or no?
I just see you, my
You just
man.
see me. All right, cool, cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know.
Yeah,
So,
I'll,
let's go
I'll help you.
application window. Hold control to support. Okay, all right, let's just try it.
Okay.
So right now I'm here.
Okay. Now does it?
Take it apart and build it again. Don't call it a loss, call me instead. Really
I like it so far. I'm gonna go back because you were talking a little bit at first.
Yeah. How about I just introduce the track, and
Okay.
then you can play, and then we can talk about the band later on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. The song that I picked for Sam to listen to. What we decided to do was pick a song for the other person, obviously, so we could get a more pure reaction of it. Something that I've come across. I'm going to show Sam. Sam has a track that he's going to show me, and we don't have any knowledge of what song each other picked. So this track is a band called Momma, and it's a song called "I Want You," parentheses Fever.
All right, here we go.
pick up and leave her. I want you, fever. Pick up and leave her. I want you, fever. Pick up and leave her. I want you, fever. Pick up and leave her. I want you, fever. Pick up and leave her. I want you, fever. Pick up and leave her. I want you, fever. Pick up and leave her. I want you, fever.
So initial reaction, I'm just gonna say like I fucking love it. I
But I'm
don't.
glad to hear. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Is this new?
Yeah, like 4
Ish?
months ago. 4 months ago.
Huh. So, where are these guys from?
They're from New York. They're based. Well, they were from Calabasas, California, but they're based out of Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah, they're on a label. I'm guessing it's a New York label, Polyvinyl.
Okay.
And yeah, I discovered them. I actually discovered another song of theirs first, but I wanted to play this one for you instead of the one that I discovered first.
Huh.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like it gives me a throwback feel. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. It gives me a '90s throwback feel, and
Yeah.
I'm a sucker for female fronted bands. You know. So,
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
that all of that, everything you just said. But I'm just like, this sounds like they look and sound like a band from the '90s.
Yeah, like it's like they're like this is gonna make me sound old, but it's like their parents must have been kids in the '90s. You know what I mean? Like just like we discovered our parents' record collections, they discovered their parents' record collections. You know what I mean? And you're getting hints of obviously the main comparison is like 𝗵𝗵 H𝗻𝗁.
Yeah.
Bands like that. So like,
like
some of their
Belly.
music videos. What's that?
Or like Belly.
Yeah, Belly, the Breeders.
Yeah. I was gonna say Breeders.
Yeah, and even like maybe lesser extent, like maybe noisier stuff like Sonic Youth and stuff like that too. So
Yeah. Some of the inflections and like the rhythm patterns and shit for the vocals remind me of like not like the timbre or anything like that, but like, just the way they're singing reminds me of like Kim Deal. Like rhythmically and stuff.
Yeah, a lot of those like 4AD bands, like like I said, like the Breeders and like maybe even bands like Lush and Cocktail Twins. You know what I mean? Like there's that certain indie harmony thing going on there that like I really find like, I don't know, I like that shit a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, let's listen to a little bit more. I want to see if there's like anything going on here that yeah.
Okay.
Take it apart and tear it to shreds. I'm right on it. You can't play it off, you can't play pretend. I'm right on it. Really can't believe she doesn't feel it. Even I can see that you don't mean it. Everybody knows that
All right. So that was Momma, the band's Momma, and the song is I Want You and Fever in parentheses.
Yes.
Good choice, man.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, so there's a lot of bands up here in Cleveland that are like that too. Like it's really surprising to me like how many I mean most of them are like in their 30s. So it's not
Hmm.
that weird, but like I'm gonna guess that this band is like all in their like early 20s.
I would say probably more like mid 20s. It says they formed in 2015. So
Mm, mm.
you figured even if they formed in high school, they're probably more like in their mid 20s.
Okay. Well, that makes more sense to me because like those are, that's like I guess my brother's 40 now, but yeah, be like people who were teenagers when we were in our 20s. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which isn't that weird.
No, and plus you got to remember too, we're the low end of our generation too. Like we're in that flux generation where their parents could be 50. You know what I mean? And they're still in the same realm as we are too. You know what I mean? They're just the older, maybe the older Gen Xers. You know what I mean? But who were already in their 20s. When this stuff came out, the
Yeah.
original like the 90s stuff came out.
Yeah. I
So
think there's another possibility here is that there's like so up here, in Cleveland, like I said, there's a lot of bands that are doing music like this right now. And I think part of that is because we have like 4 or 5 different college radio stations that
yeah.
they either play the older stuff or they play newer bands that sound like it. So like, and those bands are coming through because we also have like I'm gonna say like maybe 300 different venues to play on here
Hmm.
for that kind of music. The other thing I was thinking of was um, in back home in Newcastle, where we're from. Well, where I'm from, and you lived most, a lot of your life. But um, those we were always like a little behind the curve,
Hmm.
and stuff that was no longer in fashion stayed in fashion.
Yeah.
So if they're from a small town in New York, I don't know if they're from New York City or like a smaller town, but
Well, they're from California, but they're based out of Brooklyn.
okay, well there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. They're from
Probably.
Calabasas, California, but I'm guessing they're based out of Brooklyn because of their label. I'm guessing because I think Polyvinyl's out of New York City.
Yeah. I think there's the parent angle is a possibility, but I also think it's possible that they're either like, you know, that they're from a place where, it's sort of like a place out of time,
Yeah.
where everyone's
Yeah.
sort of like stuck. And or it could be they're in like a really hip, they're from a really hip place with like a college radio station and there's like a bunch of nerds just blasting their airwaves constantly.
Yeah. And plus Brooklyn and like New York City in general always I remember like 15 years ago getting into bands that like not a lot of people heard of, and they were like part of like some like New York indie collective. You know what I mean? It seems like New York is always kind of has those bands that are kind of just like on the fringes of like, punk meets indie. You know what I mean? Or there's
Yeah.
some weird like folk scene going on, or um experimental scene or whatever. And there's still those pockets of that coming out of, I think, New York City, which is, what kind of hipsterish, but at the same token, like kind of cool that like that still exists. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it doesn't really exist in places around here. You know what I mean? Like there are bands that are more indie than punk or metal or whatever. Like, at least out of like Newcastle and Pittsburgh and Erie, there's always been those like more like indie based bands, whether it's like Brownie Mary or Sedona or Third Class, or you know what I mean, bands like that were kind of more on the really weren't in step with what everything else was going on at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But you mentioned like so like what you're talking about, like I don't know that most of those at least not in the modern, like in the modern day, have like a name for their scene or whatever. Like you said, New York, and I immediately thought, well, punk was that in the beginning from the CBGB scene, and then and like
Yeah.
Max's, but then you had No Wave, and then you had like Paisley Underground, and then you had the the anti-folk scene, which I mean, those are all, like specific things in New York that only lasted like a couple years each or whatever. And now we think of stuff like punk is a genre now, and it's a worldwide
Yeah.
scene. And then, no wave to a lesser extent is still like a genre. You know what I mean? And so is
Shoegaze.
anti-folk, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, but I'm thinking like DC with like Revolution Summer,
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, where there was like an era in a specific regional scene,
Mm-hmm.
and I think we're kind of missing that right now, you know?
Yeah. I think what it is too is because like you have like music like The Weeknd and Chaperone who really pull a lot from like the 80s. We're slowly going into the 90s. You know what I mean? Because Momma is just not one of the bands that I've discovered that's kind of in this ilk. Like I definitely see a resurgence of like the 90s look, the 90s sound, um the influence of that. And it depends on what 90s you're pulling from. I mean, you could be pulling from indie rock, which is in case of Momma, or you could be pulling from like industrial, or you could be pulling from like more of like a shoegaze, kind of My Bloody Valentine sound. But there's definitely I'm discovering a lot of bands who are throwback sound. You know what I mean? And it's hard not to notice. Like we know growing up, we had the 70s resurgence when we were growing up because of Woodstock 94 and that whole thing. So that was like our resurgence. Then as adults, the 80s kind of came back, and now we're kind of getting the 90s coming back. So I think but that makes sense though, because you figure every two generations is going to influence, or every generation is going to influence the generation after. So it kind of makes sense that we're going through these like cycles of music.
Yeah, absolutely. I also think like, a lot of people are just not happy with the current state of like, what's on commercial radio. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to gauge that at this point, because commercial radio is like, I'm talking like iHeart and stuff like that. It's
Like
like,
Clear Channel and shit and stuff. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, or Cumulus. I think I
Mm-hmm.
can't remember what one of those is actually iHeartMedia now, and I can't
I
remember
think it's
which one.
Cumulus. I
Yeah,
think it's Cumulus.
one of them got swallowed up,
Yeah.
and then yeah, but there are like independent radio stations and stuff. So like I was telling you before, I discovered this band called uh White Reaper,
Mm-hmm.
and they were getting played by this independently owned commercial radio station up here, um called like Alternative Cleveland. I can't remember the frequency or the call sign or whatever, but um and I'm like, well, is that a band that's getting played on other stations? Because I don't listen to most, commercial radio. I listen to college radio or I stream, But yeah, so it's like I don't know. I don't even know where I was going, man. I
It's
lost my train of
it's
thought.
hard. It's hard to know how big bands are because where they're getting like I've discovered Momma off of YouTube. So
Mhm.
I have no gauge of how popular this band. I know they're touring. I know Polyvinyl is kind of a larger label. I wouldn't call it a major label, but it's a larger indie. Maybe on par with like labels like Merge and like Matador. But
Okay.
I don't, or maybe they're a small, maybe they're like Matador and Merge. Maybe they're a smaller construct of like a major label or something. You know what I mean? I don't really know. Because in the '90s they had those Vandy labels that basically allowed kind of fringe bands the exposure without necessarily putting the pressure on them to get big. You know what I mean? So instead of stamping them with the Warner Brothers or the Atlantic tag, they were extending them with like Merge or Matador or the many other like smaller imprints to let them grow. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know if polyvinyl falls into that category or not. I didn't do my research on the label.
Right.
But just discovering them because I had listened to other bands on YouTube, it was like, hey, you might like this. And, that's how I came across it. And their numbers are solid, like on Spotify and stuff like that. But like, I don't know if they sell 10,000 copies of a record. You know what I mean? I don't know how big they are in that sense. So just like you, I don't know if they're being played on college radio. I don't know if they're being played on, I can tell you they're not being played on any of the radio stations around here.
Right.
Or if they would have, or if they are played on bigger city stations, I don't know if that's the case. I just, like I said, kind of fell into them like I do most music I get exposed to.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I just think it's oh, hold on. I lost that thought that I had earlier, man. I just fucking
Well, for anybody who's interested in the band, check them out. They're gonna be releasing a new record called "Welcome to My Blue Sky." It's set for, I think, the spring release, and I'm guessing this song and the song before, "Ohio All the Time," which was the first song I heard from them. I'm guessing it's going to be on the record, but they don't have it. They don't have a release yet.
Okay, so this song and the other one you mentioned, are those like singles that they've put out?
Yeah, they're singles. Yeah, but I'm gathering they'll probably be released on the new full length when it comes out.
Okay, and you like you said, you don't know much about the label. I'm just wondering with the name of it, if it's like like an all vinyl label, like polyvinyl.
Yeah, I'm guessing they probably release CDs too. I just think polyvinyl's kind of like I know it's been around for a long time. Polyvinyl's like one of those labels like Beggar's Banquet and stuff like that have been around for a while. But I imagine they probably sell more than just vinyl. I imagine they probably sell CDs too.
Okay.
Because from the sound of it, they seem like they've been around a long time, and that they're maybe bigger than like your typical indie label. You know what I mean? Kind of like Pure Noise and labels like that. Those are kind of like the bigger labels, I guess, if you're looking at the indie world.
Gotcha. All right. Well, any corrections that you have, if you're, one of our viewers or subscribe? Well, first of all, subscribe. We got a lot of plays, but we don't have a lot of subscribers yet. So subscribe. We'll be putting up like what YouTube's calling clips, which I guess is like a Reels kind of thing, or like sort of like TikTok. But yeah, subscribe. You'll get notifications about that. You'll get notifications about new episodes. Let us know anything that you know about this band that we didn't cover. Let us know your thoughts on the song, on the video. And yeah, John, you have anything to add?
No, I'm glad you dug the song. I'm like I said, like it's one of those things that just kind of came across me, and I went, "Oh, this is my wheelhouse, dude." Like, what a sucker I am for 90s indie, especially bands like 𝗵𝗂 and Belly and The Breeders. And the obvious connection, I was like, this sounds like a lot like 𝗵𝗂. Like I'm digging the 2-part harmonies, the give and the take between the two vocalists. Yeah, I just like the way that they interloop into each other. Like, it's just not they're singing harmony. It's almost like they're kind of going on top of each other as they sing.
Yeah.
and they got the two different tones of their voice, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I
That's the
just go ahead.
that's the stuff that reminded me of like 𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗃.
Mhm.
They're not as heavy as 𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗃, but it's weird. Like, so I've got headphones on when I'm listening to it, and like
Mhm.
the production makes it sound really heavy. You know what I mean? It's like real bassy.
Mhm.
The two guitars are very like in your face in the mix. Um, but the even when 𝗵𝗂𝗃𝗃 was like, you know, poppier with songs, they still had like heavier qualities. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Something like Victrola, you know,
Yeah.
would be a good example. But yeah, I feel like I don't know. It's weird. Like they don't sound exactly like anyone, but there's several people they sound like. You know
Yeah,
what I
it's
mean?
almost like they're poppy, but at the same time though, the music they're playing is crunchier, so it does come across as heavier. It's like
Yeah.
it's that really cool juxtaposition of like these guitars are in your face,
Yeah.
but the harmonies make it so sacrally sweet
Yeah.
that like there's that push and pull, which is another reason I like them. I think I think the push and the pull of the sound and the vocalist is really cool, and you just don't I just don't think you hear that very often anymore with bands. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because everybody wants to be solo, so everybody wants to do their own thing and sing their own thing, and maybe you'll get some background vocals in the chorus. But throughout the whole song, it's just both of them are kind of like I said, like kind of interloping together. You know, the one girl may sing three words, then the other one finishes it. You know what I mean? It's just like I don't know. It's just really kind of cool how they do it, and I don't think a lot of bands now do that.
Right. Yeah.
Mm.
And they rock, you know.
Yeah, they
They
rock. Yeah, definitely check out their other stuff. I recommend not only this song, but like I said, Ohio all the time, Speeding 72, Lucky, and Rockstar. Those are the go-to songs I would recommend first. Um, they got their pulse on that sound, and I don't know. It makes me feel like hopeful that there's bands like this. And makes me feel a little nostalgic, you know what I mean? Like there's kind of gives me hope, like, okay, this kind of music isn't dead. Like people aren't giving up on this kind of sound, you know, like so makes me feel good, man. It doesn't
Yeah.
make me feel like such an old man.
Same. Although I did feel old when you were like, you know, these kids were probably raiding their fucking parents' record collections. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm not watching a 90s video. I'm
Yeah.
watching a bunch of really young people doing this music. And I was like, shit, I've got like at least 20 years on the people in this band, you know?
Well, it's like it's so confusing to me because my daughter, at her age, it's like her peers could be starting bands right now based on music that we listen to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They could be like, I tease my son all the time. He plays trumpet. I'm like, so when are you starting a ska band? And he's like, ska. And I'm like, starting to show him ska. And he's like, oh, okay, maybe. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
this is fun music, you know, but because there isn't, I don't know. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but it's like, you know, my kids and kids their ages could be starting bands right now that sound exactly like this.
Yeah.
Or similar to this. You know what I mean? Because they've been exposed by something that we've played them.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Well, here's the thing. And
or they discovered it because of something new. Who knows? We all know how people discover music now.
yeah, we've only got like a couple minutes left here, but I just want to say like it's gratifying, but it's also like well, fuck. Those are the two feelings that I'm getting at the same time when I say this. We won. Like the punk rockers and the alternative people won. Like we
Yeah.
tried to take down the industry and like you know, trends aren't fed to people anymore as much on like a mass scale.
Mhm.
You know, my stepkids do discover music on their own, and they, you know, I mean, they discover stuff from like, you know, mainly their mom playing stuff for them their whole lives, but like, um, they don't have like MTV on 24/7 pushing what MTV wants you to think is the new trend. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Um, they're discovering stuff on their own, or I mean, the trends are coming through stuff like TikTok and whatever else people
Spotify.
use. Yeah, Spotify. But you know, it's so wide a net now that's being cast onto what's being discovered, and it's algorithm based and it's AI based and whatever, but like in a way we won, but at the same time, like I feel like there has to be a happy medium between those two things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Zines and I mean podcasts and things like that are one way to do it. It's like someone has to
They're the new
curate.
zines. Podcasts are the new zine.
Yeah,
Podcasts
basically.
are a way for these lesser known bands to get attention.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which is why I did my podcast, because I was influenced by other podcasts who were doing the same thing. It's like, oh shit, instead of reading this in a magazine, I get to hear it on a podcast, and I get the same feeling. I get the same um I still get to learn about the history of a band, or I still get to learn about what makes those individuals tick. But instead of reading it on print, I'm getting it on a video or audio format. You know what I mean? So like it's still doing the same thing. So in a sense, we did win because we're still doing it on a DIY approach. A podcast is a DIY approach.
Yeah.
Like we're not affiliated by anybody. There's nobody behind us pulling the strings. You know what I mean? We're doing this kind of in a guerrilla style.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, our generation did win because it still exists. The sound still exists, the band still exists, the DIY spirit still exists, and after 30 plus years of being into alternative and punk music, it's like it's we did win. I feel like we did.
Yeah. This was a lot of fun, man. It's going to be a hell of a time editing it, but
Yeah. I
we're gonna
mean,
this is going to be part one of two. We'll have two reaction videos up, so check those out. And Jon, thanks a lot, man.
thank you, my man. I'll catch you here on the flip, man.
All right.
Peace.
Later.